Story 1, two incidents come to mind. When I watched videos of wet markets in China, seeing the poor animals in cages, including cats and dogs, made me sick. They buried many pigs alive. I also recently watched a video of a young man jumping into the ocean. He slipped and fell onto concrete, landing face first because he didn't jump far enough. The video showed his head split in half and he was still alive with a doctor trying to keep his head together. He died later. Story 2. That video where a raccoon washes cotton candy in water and it just disappears is quite amusing. The poor little animal looked so confused, and honestly, I felt the same way. Story 3. Cartel torture involved skinning his scalp and face, cutting a hole in his neck, and pulling his tongue through it, known as a Colombian necktie. They then opened his ribcage and extracted his beating heart. I will never visit South America. Story 4. I cannot even count the number of horrible deaths I have seen online, but a video that has always stuck with me is a medical case study of a man in the final stages of rabies. He has about a week or two to live at best, and his behavior is just unsettling. Everything down to how he moves and sometimes stares at the camera is inhuman. You can tell the lights are mostly off in his mind, and even seeing that as a child left me thinking, good God, why don't they just help him? The couple of flashes of lucidity he has are even worse because, on some level, you can tell he knows how dire his situation is. It reminds me of the chronic wasting disease in deer, but more disturbing. I do not engage with rabies at all. I had to get the vaccinations after a dog bite where I was 99.5% certain the dog had been vaccinated, but since we could not be certain, I was not taking any risks. Story 5. The incident where the two Russian brothers attacked a homeless woman with a hammer and gouged out her eye with a screwdriver remains deeply disturbing. To this day, apart from a video featuring a kitten and a pair of high heels, it is the only video that still affects me. Story 6. There is a disturbing video showing a Komodo dragon devouring a pregnant deer alive. It tears into the mother's womb, pulling out her baby and swallowing it whole. The newborn deer, glimpsing the world for only a few seconds, is swallowed in an instant. The desperation and helplessness of the mother deer made me question the meaning of existence on this planet. Perhaps life should never have existed at all. Story 7. A beheading I was tricked into watching kept me offline for weeks. I still haven't talked to my friend after 15 years. Story 8. The filmed suicide of a man with a shotgun occurred, and then his dog walked into the room afterward. His name is Ronnie McNutt. I wasn't completely sure, as I've only seen that video once and didn't want to come across it again. If you're planning on watching, be forewarned. It is very disturbing. Story 9. A coworker showed me a safety video of a man getting both arms crushed in what appeared to be a press for stamped steel parts. He wanders aimlessly, obviously in shock, with his arms dangling until someone stops him. He continues to stand there, swaying and bleeding on the floor as people rush around, presumably getting help. Story 10. I saw a person with an ice pick before the body parts started appearing. I truly thought it was fake. Story 11. Ricardo Lopez, a stalker of Bjork, died by suicide by shooting himself in the head on camera. The sound of blood flowing was reminiscent of a running faucet. I could not sleep that night. Story 12. The combat footage of a Ukrainian soldier and a Russian soldier engaging in a knife fight is one of the most brutally uncomfortable things I have ever seen. Story 13. The dashcam video shows a family driving down the road when suddenly a brick falls off an oncoming truck. You don't see anything except the brick. The screams of the other three people in the car, as they notice a few seconds later what happened, stay with you forever. I'm certain anyone who has watched it knew this before reading my first sentence to the end. Story 14. 20 years ago, I saw a video of a terrorist act where someone was beheaded. I still think about it occasionally. Story 15. Jesus Christ. Somebody shut down the internet. After reading the comments, I wish my eyes didn't work. Story 16. A man jumps off a cliff into the water below, hitting his head before landing. In the next shot, he is in the hospital receiving emergency surgery because his head is vertically split in half, yet he is alive. People say it's two different clips added together, But nonetheless, those images are something I cannot unsee. Story 17. In graduate school, I watched a video of a man who had been bitten by a rabid bat. By the time he reached a clinic in a remote area, he was symptomatic, which is too late for treatment. The video followed his clinical course: agitation, confusion, hydrophobia, seizures, coma, and death. It was horrifying and still haunts me. Story 18. There is a recording of a phone call the Golden State Killer made to one of his stalking victims. I watch and read a lot of true crime, watch horror movies, and scroll through creepy Reddit communities, but nothing has affected me like listening to the Golden State Killer call. It is so disturbing. It makes me feel physically anxious with a combination of revulsion and fear. I'm sure there are people who aren't bothered by it, but I am definitely not one of them. Story 19. I once saw a video of a lady who poured cake batter into her body using a funnel and then inserted a whisk and started whisking. It didn't upset me. It was just strange, and I have questions. Story 20. It was a video on YouTube a long time ago called The Pain Olympics. It featured a group of 3 guys doing extreme activities, like trying to cut one of their faces off and hammering holes in their ears. I never tried to find it again and never will. Story 21. The video of the 2 girl tourists camping in Morocco is not something I would recommend anyone watch. Story 22. When I was in middle school, a girl from a nearby town filmed herself engaging in inappropriate behavior with her dog, and it was circulated widely. This is something I wish I had never seen because it deeply disturbed my young mind. People can be very disturbing. Story 23. It wasn't until a few years ago that I watched the news footage from September 11th. Seeing that plane go into the second tower definitely gave me chills. Story 24. My ex had a graphic video on his phone of a person being beheaded with a shovel. He once showed it to me without any warning. Story 25. I was browsing a forum the other day, casually viewing one of their threads, until I stumbled upon a disturbing video. I think that's the last time I'll be visiting that site. It depicted a graphic scene where a person was decapitated slowly over time, but the victim remained conscious the entire time. Mind you, he already had no hands. I was there out of morbid curiosity, just watching motorcycle wreck footage, elevators in China failing, and then I scrolled to the video, which truly shocked me, even though I thought I had become desensitized after browsing similar content years ago when anything was allowed. Story 26. There was a video where someone kept filming while their house was being destroyed by a tornado. I believe it was in Joplin, Missouri. It was quite disturbing. Story 27. When a video provided a hyper-focused microscopic view of different pathogens, diseases, or cells and slowly zoomed out to reveal the multiverse, it truly makes one ponder the complexities of life. Story 28. Long ago, when WorldStar was at its height, there was a video featuring 3 to 4 soldiers on their knees facing the camera. Behind each soldier stood a cartel member with saws against their necks. They began sawing, and I couldn't make it 5 seconds into that video. It still haunts me to this day. Story 29. A Palestinian boy, about 10 years old, has suffered severe burns and lost much of his lower body. He is screaming in pain on an operating table. I think of him often. Story 30. The girl with her limbs injured, hanging on a wall in Gaza. The whole world saw it, and the violence continued. I've lost hope in humanity. Story 31. A woman is being suffocated with a balloon covering her head. I think it was meant to be some disturbing adult content. Story 32. Self-immolation in the woods. Catching fire takes a surprisingly long time to be fatal. Story 33. The video of a man shooting his neighbors in the hallway of their apartment building in Flatbush, Brooklyn, has stayed with me. Rest in peace. Story 34. I was once scrolling on Twitter and saw a video of someone attempting to commit suicide by jumping off a building in the middle of a city. They landed, suffering multiple broken bones, but they survived and crawled among the innocent bystanders. Story 35. I have seen a lot of disturbing content on the internet over the years, but nothing affected me as much as a video of a Ukrainian soldier engaged in a knife fight with a Russian soldier. I have seen people blown apart in various videos, but I was never more disturbed than by that hand-to-hand combat video. The worst part is that it lasts 5 minutes, and once you start watching it, you cannot stop. Story 36. Someone was chopping up a human leg and throwing it into a cast iron pan to cook. The person doing this was a vendor selling meat wrapped in a tortilla or pita. Initially, the footage showed people purchasing street food and leaving, but then the cameraman went behind the stall to reveal the source of the meat. It was incredibly disturbing. Story 37. That video of a man skinning a woman to reach the baby inside circulated widely during the conflict in Israel involving Hamas, as it was mistaken for violence related to that situation due to similar reports. It was only a few seconds long, but it shattered something important within me, perhaps my belief in humanity. I spiraled for days, trying to understand how one human being could inflict such pain on another. Story 38. One video that impacted me was one I saw online. It begins with a puppy in a small shack. 3 women enter the scene and start moving around the puppy. Initially, they kick it lightly, but soon they kick harder, causing it to yelp in pain. Gradually, they kick it harder until it falls down. At that point, they begin stepping on it. They apply more weight gradually. When the puppy lifts its head, they kick it instead of stepping on it. They continue until the puppy is clearly dead. The video lasted only a couple of minutes, but that was enough. This experience affected me more than any depiction of a person dying. It is always the videos involving animals that resonate with me the most. Story 39. The decapitation of that journalist with a knife was a brutal act. He remained stoic and brave, but the gurgling and savagery were disturbing. This made me realize that humanity still harbors primal instincts, killing for land, food, money, and religion. I've tried to imagine knowing I'm going to die and being powerless to change that fate. Seeing the knife and the camera is beyond comprehension. It is horrifying. We are capable of such horrors. Story 40. Thankfully, I have never seen it because I forced myself not to look for it. However, I hear that the Funky Town video is awful. I can handle a lot, but I can't even tolerate the song playing, knowing the horrible things associated with it. This is traumatic, considering I haven't seen it. I've only heard about it and promised myself never to watch it. Story 41. The Israeli army used a weapon to injure a Palestinian boy's legs. When people ran to help him, they were intentionally targeted and killed. They were civilians. Story 42. In the early 2000s, I saw a video in school, shared by a friend, of someone jumping from a skyscraper. After that, I didn't seek out disturbing content. Story 43. I have seen horrific things, including beheadings and similar acts. One particularly disturbing video showed a man using a chainsaw to mutilate a victim's arm before the actual beheading. However, what stays with me the most is a video of a man feeding a puppy to a snake. The puppy appeared to be barely 2 weeks old. The snake bit it a few times, and the puppy's screams will haunt me forever before the video cuts to the snake swallowing it whole. Story 44. Pick anything from Gorgrish. The problem is the one where a cartel removes a man's head from the back of his neck forward, gives him a Colombian necktie, then cuts out his heart and shows it still beating in their hand. Fair play, the guy took it like a champion and just asked them not to stand on his chest. Story 45. When I was a teenager, I went to California and ended up at a party. My older brother's friends got me very high. One of them decided it was time to watch a disturbing video. I watched one clip and then chose to take a long walk outside with my girlfriend. To say it was uncomfortable is an understatement. I cannot unsee that horrendous video. Story 46. The movie Necromantic was challenging for me to watch. I have seen many types of horror films, but I couldn't even finish this one. Story 47. The Three Guys, One Hammer video and the 60s or 70s 8mm home movie shot by a Russian child killer deeply disturbed me with their visuals, even without sound. Story 48. The Buffalo, New York mass murder live stream. I didn't watch it live, but a random 70-something-year-old grandmother buying groceries and turning the corner around an aisle. That moment will always stick with me as the end of her life. Story 49. A girl laughs as she takes kittens out of a bucket to throw into a river. Few things instill a desire for violence in me like people hurting innocent creatures, including human children. Story 50. Not a video, but an image of a chick infected with parasites. They had effectively eaten away its entire skin, leaving only a beak and a vaguely bird-shaped parasite mass. I'm thankful I haven't been exposed to the terrible murders and deaths mentioned in other comments. However, it has stuck with me as a reminder of how cruel nature can be. Story 51. Not a video on the internet in the sense everyone else is discussing, but a death scene from a film. It's the dance scene from Suspiria. Probably the longest 3 minutes of my life. Story 52. The video of the man who was obsessed with Bjork committing suicide by shooting himself on camera is unforgettable. Story 53. A group of Eastern European soldiers executed another faction of Eastern European soldiers. One attempted to run away and was shot, while another had his throat cut. Story 54. A video features a man who believed he was going to connect with another man. He pulled down his pants and boxers and bent over. The other man grabbed a fire extinguisher and attacked him until he died. I cannot find the video anywhere, but it used to be on various platforms. Story 55. Amid all the death and gore, one of my favorite bizarre videos is the banana face mask with firecrackers. Just why? Story 56. My friend told me about an Instagram account that featured disturbing content involving mutilated, beheaded, gutted, and skinned cats. It was torturous to see these posts. I reported all of them and the entire account. I feel ill and nauseous just recalling the event. This happened years ago, but those images are burned into my memory. Story 57. Someone posted a video of a person detonating a bomb in their mouth, resulting in an explosion. I do not know the source of the video, and I do not wish to find out. Story 58. I once saw a video of a factory incident. I can't remember what kind of factory it was, but there was a large, fast-spinning horizontal pipe. A man walked up to it to do something and got pulled into the spinning pipe, essentially disintegrating. Some of his body parts flew off, leaving remnants of him and his skin spinning around. It was absolutely horrifying. Story 59. A girl in China was attacked by other girls for allegedly being involved with one of their boyfriends. They were all in middle school, and the situation was distressing as they brutally beat the girl while she was crying and apologizing. Story 60. About 15 years ago, I was video chatting with some friends, and one of them sent us a link to a video he wanted us to watch together. I can't remember much of it, but it was of a man lying in the woods, being wounded and poked at by two people who were laughing and speaking a language I had never heard. It lasted about a minute, or at least that's how much I could watch. It traumatized me to think that this man was someone's son, friend, brother, maybe father or grandfather. It was horrific to watch, and the thought that his family either never knew what happened to him or found out what happened made me realize how much they must have suffered. That was one of the last times I spoke to the person who sent the link. Story 61. In my YouTube favorites list, a horror clown video appeared. I don't like clowns, and I don't know why a clown video appeared in my favorites. Story 62. I once saw the first 30 seconds of 4 girls finger painting, and then almost threw up. I sent the link to all my friends to disrupt their peaceful, non-gross day. Story 63. In 2004 or 2005, I saw a video of a woman who was dragged into a cement room and kicked by 2 men on the floor until they shot her in the stomach 2 or 3 times. Story 64. The kid YouTuber, Blippi, does something ridiculous with his friend that I find disappointing. While it may not be the worst thing I've seen on the internet, it's still frustrating. Story 65. Years ago, there was a video on the internet of a car in Russia that wrapped sideways around a pole due to a drunk driver. The car caught fire, and nobody could escape through the doors. The driver managed to get out while on fire after someone stomped on the windshield to break it. I believe the news reports indicated that he died later. Story 66. Not a video for me, but real life. In 1977, at 19 years old, I was working in a corrugated paper factory when I saw a summer college student get his right hand caught in a paper slitter, severing it between the middle and ring fingers almost up to the wrist. He ended up losing his ring and pinky fingers. His hand was permanently injured. I still remember him running around and screaming. I have never had any interest in watching graphic videos. Story 67. I remember about 10 to 15 years ago seeing a line of people, 3 to 5, on their knees with some sort of cartel behind them. They hacked and sawed until the victims fell apart. I have no idea what it was about, as it was in a different language. However, I remember staying off social media for a few years. Story 68. Afghan or Iraqi cadets were being shot in the head and dumped into the river. They were children at a military school when it was overrun by rebels, and they were killed one after another. Story 69. Tonsillectomy on a child without anesthesia in Belarus. The child was probably 5 years old. First, they tied his arms and legs to a chair. He started crying and asked why they were doing that. "The chair is shaking, you'll fall," they said. Then, they put a hood over his eyes because the light is too bright. There was a lot of screaming and blood. I have seen many shock videos, but that was the first time I got up and headed to the bathroom to be sick. Story 70. My ex once casually showed me a picture a coworker of ours had sent her. It went around in a strange group chat our coworker was in that was filled with dark humor. It was the only time I yelled at her, and it still haunts me sometimes. Story 71. I saw a video of a woman being stoned to death because someone in that village claimed she burned the Quran. Story 72. You don't want to know. There are several top contenders, many of which are from Ukraine. It is extreme content, but it cannot compare to what true psychopaths are capable of. For your own peace of mind, avoid these types of videos and do not seek them out. Story 73. There is a disturbing video from the war in Ukraine showing a drone dropping a grenade. In the footage, a man is severely injured, and despite the top half of his body being destroyed, his heart can still be seen beating. It is haunting. Story 74. The angriest I have been was when I saw a woman tearing open crabs while they were still alive. Watching them flail their limbs in obvious agony as they were being torn apart was disturbing, yet she continued without hesitation. Story 75. One man, one jar. I saw it in the Gauntlet years ago. Do not watch it if you are eating something or want to sleep well tonight. Story 76. A straight truck ran over a man on a moped. He was severely injured. It was a terrible sight I did not want to witness. Story 77. Somebody on Reddit sent me the most disgusting video I have ever seen. It surpassed one guy, one jar, and two girls, one cup by far. I clicked the link, and there was a video of a man with a screwdriver jammed up his urethra, pulling it out by the handle as blood oozed out in pools into a bathtub, filling it. It was horrifying. Story 78. A few years ago, a video was posted on Reddit showing a couple harassing their neighbor by shoveling snow onto his driveway. The neighbor came out of his house and started arguing with them, then pulled a handgun and shot both of them. The woman survived the initial attack and continued yelling at the shooter while her husband lay dead just off camera. The video circulated in various communities with misleading titles, so I wasn't expecting to witness a shooting that morning. What disturbed me the most was that after killing the husband and wounding the wife, the shooter went back into his house for several minutes and returned with a second gun to finish off the wife. On some level, I can understand the rage the shooter felt in that initial moment, but the fact that he spent several minutes retrieving another weapon really unsettles me. Story 79. The advertisement featuring George Floyd's last words in 2020 was not as disturbing as others, since I avoid shock sites. This one aired on public television, and you couldn't really avoid it unless you turned off the TV or used a different device like an Xbox or PlayStation. Story 80. Buchenwald and Dachau concentration camps after liberation. You are warned. This content is intended for adults only. Story 81. Well, I have seen the Russian lathe accident, the Soviet soldier being beheaded by Chechen rebels, the woman being struck by a train, and the disturbing combinations involving individuals in cups, along with the homeless man with an open head wound infested with maggots. But 30 seconds of almost any Trump speech is worse. Story 82. I saw a video of a reversing truck. A toddler stepped behind the back wheels and was run over feet first. His head popped like an overfilled water balloon as all the blood was squeezed into it. Story 83. The video of Hamas burning Jewish babies alive in their cribs is deeply disturbing. It is no wonder Israel went to war with them. Story 84. There's a video of a man smashing severed human heads to declutter his dismemberment workstation, and he's doing it as if he were working at a factory. Maybe it was fake. I saw it years ago. Story 85. I can't say exactly which one. Probably some Chinese industrial accident or someone who had his cap detached by ISIS. Definitely something on a forum. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.